Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Honesty is such a lonely word. Everyone is so untrue. Honesty is hardly ever heard, and mostly what I need from you. We're going to talk about honesty today, by the way. Thank you, Mr. Billy Joel, for those lyrics. Great song. Says a lot right there. It is a challenging word. It's challenging to get honesty from people, but even more so challenging to get honesty from yourself. Are you being honest with yourself? If you're not moving forward, you're not being authentic. We're going to talk about all that today. He is an amazing life and success coach, an author, a speaker, a mentor. He's a very honest guy too. I know it. Dr. Bary Fleet is with us. Hey Barry, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Steve. How about yourself?
Fantastic. And I love this topic because it transcends all different areas. We want honesty in people, but also I think we forget that we're not always being honest with ourselves. And we probably don't even know that we're doing that, right?
I think sometimes we don't. But I would also challenge you a little bit because I think sometimes we don't want people to be honest with us.
Now, how do you mean that? How do you mean, we don't want people to be honest with us?
Sure. So if in a relationship, if the other person really isn't into us,
oh, we don't want to hear it. I get it.
We don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I was talking with a client the other day, and I said, when somebody tells you who they are, believe it.
Well, that funny you should say that, but I truly believe somebody does tell you who they are in the very beginning.
Absolutely.
And that's the time where you're usually not paying attention. It could be if it's a business connection, you've just met, you've got things going on, you're not really paying full attention to what they're saying, what they're telling you, how they're acting, how they're interacting with other people. Are they being respectful of the server at the restaurant? All of that stuff. And the same thing in a personal relationship. You already got, they gave you the clues. It was all right there. But typically let's say you're attracted to them. It's, bliss, it's fantastic and everything's great. And even if you picked up on it, it's probably not that bad.
Yeah. We often we listen for what we want to hear instead of listening for what is true.
Yep. And that's so true.
Yeah.
It really, really is. Yeah.
But also to the other point is being honest with ourselves. I sometimes tell people that one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is, I don't have time for this. The truth is, we have time for the things that are important for us. And instead of saying, oh, I would have, but I didn't have time, it's much more honest to be able to admit to ourselves, it really wasn't that important to me.
And that's your way of minimizing it, to say, well, it really wasn't that important. Meanwhile, inside, I wish I should have done that. I really wanted to do that. I know it would make a difference in my life.
Well, that's the lie we tell ourselves, is that I really wanted to. Because if I really wanted to, I would have.
Then why don't we? I guess we didn't really want to.
I think it's because we didn't want to on some level. On some level, it was not important enough to us.
Yeah.
One of the other things, the difference between saying I can't and I won't. I can't do this. Well, that's going to be followed with a because. There's going to be a reason. But to say I won't do this, that's a statement that you can stop right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of scary to make that statement because you're standing up for yourself. Typically, I won't deal with that. I won't do that. There could be some repercussions, and sometimes it takes a little bit of strength to get there. You're putting up your boundaries too.
Absolutely, and I think that's the hallmark of a healthy man, is having healthy boundaries and staking them out. And to go back to one of the sayings of AA, say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean.
Yeah, true. Yeah, what
But
you said before, I want to just the why somebody doesn't do something. I have a friend, and a couple of friends, girls, and we talk all the time. And they give me the female view, I give them the male view. And one of them, a guy, recently broke up with her, and he said, I got a lot going on. My dad's ill. I want to feel love for you and blah, 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 blah. And then she's very sweet and she's kind of just internalizing and, well, he'll get it all figured out and he's in a tough place. He'll probably bounce back. And I said, I'm going to be your reality check. If he wanted to, he would. Any guy that cares enough about you the way he should be caring about you and the way you would want him to, he's going to be there no matter what. Doesn't matter. He'll change things. He'll move things. That's the way it is. So my advice to her was like, don't wait.
yeah, and you're demonstrating kind of part of why I'm in business. We need people who will be our reality check, because it's easy for us to get lost in the fantasy that we want to be true than it is in facing the reality that is there.
Yep.
And you did her such a favor by gently saying what is true instead of allowing her to continue to delude herself and ultimately end up being hurt more.
Totally. And I know him. I met him through her. We would all, hang out together every once in a while. Nice guy, but I could tell he was focused in some other areas. If it worked great. But and she's since, I feel, has accepted it, that and she still cares about him. I said, have you talked to Dennis? And she's like, yeah, last week we talked a little bit and he told me what was going on with his dad and things like that. And like, oh, great, you're a great friend. But that's sometimes we need to hear it.
Yes, we really do. We need people in our lives who will point out to us what is true.
How do we do that to ourselves, Bary? How do we come to the point where we're not going to lie to ourselves anymore?
So one of the measuring sticks is look at the results you're getting in your life. Do you have another way of saying it is, do you have reasons or do you have results?
Right. Okay.
And if there's something I say I want, losing weight, making more money, being in a relationship, being out of a relationship. If there's something I say I want, but there are no results, then you got to look at the reasons, and those are probably the lies that we're telling ourselves. Because the saying numbers don't lie. I want to lose weight, but I get on the scale and the number stays the same or it keeps creeping up. Well, if I wanted to lose weight, I would do the painful thing and create limits that would get the results that I say that I want.
Yep. And I'm right there with you. I said the same thing the other day. And it's like, all right, I got to spend more time at the gym. And today it was like, all right, I got 50 minutes. I got to make sure I get in good habits. Blah, blah, blah. I need to set more time aside and also cut back on, this or that. And unless you make those changes, all you're doing is making excuses.
We're great at making excuses. And you point out something else. If we have a goal, it's important to have a plan. Otherwise, the goal is just a fantasy. It's a dream.
Yeah.
But when we create a plan and we work the plan, but the truth is, with going to the gym, with losing weight, with a lot of things in life, it means making hard choices. It often means making, in the moment, unpleasant choices. But that's where the truth comes in. I'm either committed to this or I'm not. And if you're not, it's okay. Just be honest enough to say, I'm not doing this. I know I probably should,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to. I know me. I'm not going to.
You're going to find excuses though, because you're going to say, in our example here, I just don't have the time. I don't know how I'm going to pull that off. My schedule's always changing. I wanted to eat better today. There was a salad over here. There it is. I didn't finish. I went shopping last night, picked up all the stuff, and I was eating today. I'm going to be honest. I was bored. I was bored,
Yeah,
and I was loving salads, and I'm at the point where it's like, all right, I need a break. So I didn't eat horribly today, but the salad would have been better. But I made the effort, but I need to find something else that's going to get the job done, and then circle back to salads. They're all great, but
yeah. But it's those little choices and how those little choices add up,
and they do.
and they do, and that's another lie that we tell ourselves is, oh, it's just for now. The salad will be there. I'll indulge now. Um, and the lie that we tell ourselves is that, but it all adds up, and it shows in the results.
Yep.
Um,
Isn't it interesting that we can, for anything, whether we're trying to be truthful with ourselves or truthful in my friend Lisa and Dennis, we'll always find excuses if we're not committed to it, if we're not serious about it, if we're literally avoiding the truth, we'll come up with excuses.
Absolutely, that's that's what we do to avoid dealing with what is true. I was also thinking about somebody that I knew several years ago. Um, his daughter was anorexic. She was 18 years old. She was probably 5'6", and she weighed 78 pounds. And he didn't notice how unhealthy she was because it was too scary for him to face the reality. So he made himself blind, and he needed other people to say, hey, look at this. I know it's scary, but you need to look at this. Um, a lot of times and like with your friend, um, she didn't want to see the truth that it's not going anywhere. And so we make up our own stories to fill in the gaps, so the story in our mind matches what what we want, rather than looking at what is true and dealing with what is true and building a life on what is true instead of building a life on what I want to be true.
Do you find, or do you think, if we're not truthful with ourselves, or we're leading a life that maybe isn't totally true, maybe you're doing things, you're telling people one thing, um, you're telling yourself something, that others aren't going to be truthful with you too, because they're going to pick up on your energy and your vibe and everything?
Absolutely. And the other side of that is also true. When we're around people who are less than honest, our honesty starts to erode unless we become very, very mindful.
Mm, yeah.
But you're right, it works both ways. We pick up the energy of other people, and other people pick up our energy. And that's why, I really think we need a moral gyroscope in us, that kind of, no matter what's tilting around us, I know what my North Star is.
Right. True north.
True north. True north.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in different things. Yeah, life goes on, and sometimes many of us will tell a little white lie just because we don't want to, we don't want to deal with something. Same thing when somebody says, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing great. Everything's fine."
Yeah.
Either,
I,
right?
I read a story the other day about a guy who was on this journey of being truthful, and was in the checkout line at the supermarket, and he used more colorful language than I'm going to. But the cashier said, "How are you doing today?" And he said, I'm having a really crappy day, but he used more adjectives than that.
Mhm.
And he said, all of a sudden you could feel a freeze. Everybody just froze because we don't know what to do when somebody is really honest about not feeling well.
That's what I'm saying. And then the person that isn't honest in terms of telling you, they know that they don't want to make the other person feel uncomfortable, and maybe don't want to put it on their shoulders as well. And then the flip side of that is we would just want everybody to think everything's great. Living the life, living the dream, everything's great. No.
Yeah, no. And that's one of the reasons why men especially are feeling so lonely because we don't feel free to be honest about what's really going on with us.
Well,
We
that's our culture.
Yeah, and I think that's the hero's journey is to be really honest with what we're feeling and how we're feeling, to be honest with ourselves. And what the guy said is it was an ironic twist. He realized after he spoke his truth, he felt better. Everybody else was feeling awkward, but he felt better. But that's kind of their problem.
True. And it could have worked in other ways. They might have looked at that and said, yeah, I can relate to that. My day's crappy too.
Yeah,
It went that way.
because when we are honest, it gives the people around us permission to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. Brutal. That was brutally honest.
Yes,
But I
yes,
don't mean in a bad way. He was just being, maybe he didn't need to use the descriptions that he did, but you know what? He was being honest, and I give him some credit there. You ask, don't ask a question unless you're prepared to get the answer.
absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
One of the other questions that I often ask people that I work with is, what are you pretending not to know?
You ask questions that takes a second to process. What are you pretending? Give me that one more time.
What are you pretending not to know? So, in the example with your friend Lisa, she was pretending not to know that this guy was breaking up with her. He was ending the road that they were traveling, that she was traveling, and she was pretending not to know that.
Or she knew that, well, okay, she might have thought he wasn't breaking up, maybe just taking a break, but she was pretending that it's going to go on, everything's going to be fine. It's going to be all right. She knew.
Yeah,
We all know. And that's the other thing. We all know. We know the answer.
we do. Deep down, we do. Um, when we hear the truth, it resonates. We may not like it, but it resonates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I also I was talking to somebody and they were talking about a particular relationship. He said, "She makes me so crazy," and I said, "Oh, stop right there." I said, "You are 100% responsible for your experience, and if you're being crazy, that's a choice you're making in response to their craziness.
Yeah. Hmm.
But that's claiming our power. That's choosing not to be a victim. When we acknowledge the truth that we are responsible for how we're feeling. I don't want to get into the law of attraction right now and whether we're responsible for everything that happens to us, but we certainly are responsible for our response to what happens to us. Um, I had a client years ago. I might have shared this story. His fiance broke up with him after the rehearsal dinner, and he was really devastated, understandably so.
Sure.
Um, he says he didn't see it coming. I am sure that there were signs along the way had he been open to it. But I said to him, I said, "You realize the favor that she did you? Would you rather have had her wait until the night after the wedding?"
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
And
and
you're right. I'm sure there were signs and he ignored them. or just minimize them. That's yeah. She got cold feet. She's, maybe we're getting closer to the ceremony and the reception, so she's a little nervous. I'm sure he knew, felt something.
Um, there are also times, I had an acquaintance years ago, who threw himself into his work, and over the course of a week, his family moved out, and he didn't notice anything until he came home to an empty house. But they had been removing furniture and belongings over the course of a week. And I think sometimes we don't notice because we're so caught up, we've got such tunnel vision in one area of our life, we're not paying attention to the rest of our lives.
Yeah. In his case, he wanted to believe what he was seeing, or the lack thereof.
I truly think it was like he had blinders on,
Yeah.
and he saw what was in front of him, but he wasn't looking around him.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, the world collapsed, and he never saw it coming because he wasn't paying attention.
I
And I
guess.
think that's one of the things we often do. We get so caught up in one facet of our life that we don't pay attention to the rest of them, and then are surprised when all the house of cards falls in.
Or we're imagining what we want it to be, but it's really not that way.
We're making assumptions.
Yeah. Yep.
That things are a certain way, and rather than fact finding, rather than checking it out, we're living our life based on the lies of assumptions.
But it goes back to what we said before. Inside you, you just have to listen. And it does take time, I truly believe, in trusting your gut, your faith in yourself. But if you ask, you'll get the answer. Again, it might not be the answer you want, which is the crappy part, but it is what it is. But at least you're getting truth if you listen to yourself.
And that's something a lot of us don't spend time doing.
Right. Yeah.
There's so much, we're paying attention to all the noise around us that we're not listening to that small inner voice that's screaming sometimes the truth to us. We're pushing that down and distracting ourselves with the noise around us.
Because the truth hurts. It's scary.
It is scary, but at least it's real.
Yeah.
You know, I think of that just popped in my head, the Velveteen Rabbit. I'm sure you know the story. Um, didn't look very pretty, but it was real, and that's what made it valuable.
Hmm.
And the truth sometimes isn't pretty, but it's valuable. It's much more valuable than the illusion.
If I went back, and you could never say shoulda done this, shoulda done that. If I went back and listened and saw the truth, things would be radically different in many situations in my life because I had the answer. I knew it. It was right.
Yes.
But you want to believe something, kind of put up with certain things, and but the answer is there. And all you're doing is just lying to yourself if you're not listening to yourself. But again, I don't think it's easy. I don't think anybody can do it. It takes time to interpret that feeling that you got.
It does take time, and it takes intention. At some point, either the world will show me the truth in a very dramatic way that is very painful, or I can set an intention to be rigorous in looking for what is true, no matter how scary it might be. Because at least when I'm dealing with what's real, I can move forward. But when I'm distracted with the illusion that I want to be true, I'm stuck.
Well, somebody said to me a couple of years ago, impactful person in my life, then and now, and said these words: "It will all be revealed," which includes the truth.
Yes.
Might not be now. Even if you're lying to yourself, that will be revealed. Things that are going on around you, if they're not authentic and truthful, they will be revealed some way, somehow. Don't know.
Yes.
No, yeah, but eventually, all the truth. You know, somebody used to say, "Well, it all comes out in a wash."
And that's there's truth in that, but it also minimizes um, a life that is purposeful, a life that's directed, and maybe that's we can talk about that another time,
Hmm.
because I think a lot of us are just going through life day to day, and we're waking up and looking. So what's next on my calendar? What's next on my schedule? And we don't have a destination. We don't have a goal, and so we live life like a pinball, just get bounced around, and then wonder why things don't feel good, why there's nothing meaningful happening.
Maybe that's because we're afraid to face the truth.
I think it often is. I
So
think it often is.
you're you have a banner in back of you. It's on your website. Move into your magnificence. I'm going to add to that. Move into your magnificence and find your truth, because really that's what it is. You have to find your truth, and your truth could be the lies that somebody's telling you. But that is, now you find your truth if you figure it all out, which is what you help people do, right?
Yes, and to pick up on you, hear your truth because your truth is speaking.
This is true.
Um, and that is what I do. And so if you listeners find yourself in a place where you would like to face the truth, to hear your truth, to be in touch with your truth, be in touch with me. Let me be the person that helps you connect with your truth, that allows you to build a life that has meaning and purpose and a sense of fulfillment.
What's your website?
Website is www.drbaryfleet.com. You go there, there's contact information. My cell phone's there, my email is there, um, uh, my book is there, my TED Talk is there. Get a sense of who I am, because I'm really passionate about living the truth and challenging and inspiring and inviting others to live from what is true rather than live a life that's delusional.
Once you change your life and you are living truth or more truth, it actually feels good.
It
It
really does.
really
It
does.
really does. Life is a better experience when you're living it from a place of truth.
Yeah. Yep. And you don't know it until you see it.
Yes,
You might not even know that you're not being fully truthful. I'm not saying, that in a bad way. I mean, it's just, sometimes we don't realize it, or we get stuck in that rut.
we do.
Yeah.
We,
Bary,
we, we get stuck living the delusions or the illusions we want to be true.
great talk today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad we went down this road, because it's kind of the baseline for a lot of stuff that we're dealing with or we want to change, but unless it's you're living the truth, you're not gonna get there.
So, do you want to change or are you willing to change?
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
It really is. All right, Barry, we'll catch up next time. Thanks a lot.
Okay, take care, Steve.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.